Hello, YouTube. It's Rick Lamb with Me in Miami. It's Saturday, May 21st. First things, one of the things that I've noticed with this disease, when other things go wrong with my body, it just compounds the misery, if you know what I mean. My back went out yesterday. In a most innocuous of moments, I was sitting down to trim my damn toenails, and I realized I didn't have my glasses on, and that's probably not a good thing to take sharp instruments to the tip of my toes without my glasses on, right? So I came back in here to my office to grab them. In the process of standing up, wham, my back went out. So now not only am I doing the Tim Conway Shuffle, which I do anyway, and if you don't know who Tim Conway is, all you need to do is Google it on YouTube. You will laugh your butt off, I promise. It'll make your day. Do it. In the process of gimping up my back, because I already shuffle around, I'm bent over and tilted to the left and just doing this. God. I've been to my chiropractor. I've had a massage. I've tried to get up and walk around even though it hurts. And it still just hurts. It's a little bit better than it was yesterday, and I imagine tomorrow will be a little bit better. Friday was Bike Anywhere Day. I'm a huge cyclist fan. I do get out and ride, but I don't ride a bicycle. I ride a trike. I'll put a picture of it up right about here in the video. I'll show it to you. The VA gave me that. It's pretty cool, isn't it? But when my back's out, I don't dare try to pick that thing up to load it in the back of my pickup truck to go somewhere to ride. I live in a real hilly place, so I don't really want to ride these hills around my beloved home. I go find some flat place to ride, if you know what I mean. So, yeah, I'm gimped up. So my whine factor's high. But I'm trying not to whine. But I whine. But I'm trying not to whine. Anyway, I really wanted to spend this video talking about how I ended up here with ME. Give you a little background. Thought that might help to understand me. So in 2006, I was a very successfully employed systems administrator at the Boeing Company here in the Seattle area. Loved my job. Could not believe they paid me to do this. Achieved a lot of success in that world. All I really wanted to do was continue to do an amazing job and retire from Boeing. And at the time, I was 46 years old, and I didn't see any obstacles to making that happen. All I had to do was do a good job, right? Yep. But I kept getting sick in 2006. And I'm not talking like a little bit sick. I'm talking like rolling into the ER on a gurney from the back of an ambulance, an aid unit, sick as a dog, puking, diarrhea, bad headache, evil headache, extreme nausea, little men with machetes in my gut, and just a very unhappy 46-year-old man. And they would admit me to the hospital. I'd stay there for 5 days. They'd run a gazillion different tests. I'd come up inconclusive. And eventually the fever would break and the infection would go away. And I'd get better. That happened 5 times in 2006. Just like that. That same scenario. 5 times. What in the heck is wrong with me? And the doctors would just do this. Oh, we don't know, Mr. Lamb. We don't quite understand. Couldn't find anything conclusive. Excuse me, but that's not acceptable. But that's what they would do. And I was obviously very frustrated because deep down inside me, I'm a fix-it guy. I fix broken things. That's what I got paid to do. And also prevent them from getting broken in the first place. That's the higher priority, right? They couldn't figure it out. So that went on for about a year. In and out of the hospital. Messed up my career, messed up my stability of life. It was messed up. In 2007, in I think about June, I changed doctors. I'd moved up here to Snoqualmie Ridge in outside Seattle. Beautiful neighborhood, gorgeous place to live. And changed doctors. Local doctor. Explained to him what was going on. He says, I think you need to see this gastrointestinal surgeon in Belgium. So he writes the name down, the phone number, and I go and see Dr. Herman. Dr. Herman does a colonoscopy. He comes back and he says, you have diverticulitis, Mr. Lamb, and we need to remove 12 inches of your colon. I say, okay, I'll take your word for it. Why would I disagree? So in July, we did that surgery, July of 2007. Came out of the surgery, had lots of complications after the surgery, including a pulmonary embolism at 2:30 in the morning. In my birthday suit in bed next to my wife, slamming on the bed, hitting the bed. I couldn't speak because I'm drowning in air. That's what a pulmonary embolism is. It's where you get a blood clot in your lungs. You can't take in oxygen. So it's literally like drowning in air. What a horrible mind game that was. Got rushed to the hospital, of course, and recovered from that, survived, which not a lot of people do, apparently. I didn't know that. It was pretty messed up. Gets in your head, kind of ugly. And I got pneumonia. That wasn't fun, but I recovered from that. And tried to go back to work. But what I was noticing is my ability to concentrate and to process and to retain information. I would show up to work and I sit down in front of my computer and in the morning with my cup of coffee, and I'd be at an absolute utter loss as to what it is I was supposed to do that day. Completely blown away. I couldn't concentrate. That whole thing that I made money with, I couldn't kick it back into gear. And it was like, what the hell? And not only that, but my ability to process information, my ability to remember, my ability to my energy levels were like a minor percentage of what they should be. I couldn't figure it out. Why am I not able to keep up at work? I was a type A driven, annoying personality. You know, a guy who had all these stacks of goals and lists and targets and to-dos and delegation. I couldn't do any of that. Blew my mind because my mind was gone. Things that Nancy, my wife, would say to me like yesterday, I have a hard time remembering what that was today. If you came up to me and asked me what happened 3 days ago, very funny. I'm not going to do it. It's not there. It's just there's no information there at all. So I went like that, seeing doctors here in the Seattle area at various medical facilities and insurance programs, and ended up at the VA, Veterans Administration Hospital here in Seattle, because I'm ex-Air Force. And when I got out of the Air Force, I always had employer-subsidized health care, so I never put excuse me, I never put the VA on my radar for health care. I didn't need it. I had employer-subsidized health care. Well, the last time I worked was back in 2011. I happened to run across the local King County Director of Veterans Affairs by happenstance, and was sitting in a Starbucks talking to him, and my story came up because I was sitting there in a wheelchair, and he wanted to know why I wasn't using the VA, and I said, well, I never had it on my radar, etc. So he says, you need to. And at this point, we were paying, I think, $1,200 a month for health insurance. Crazy or what? Absolute madness. So I went to the VA. And lo and behold, that was probably the smartest decision, one of the smartest decisions I've made since I got sick. Because they have taken exquisitely good care of me. And in the process of them trying to figure out what's wrong with me, I was in the gastrointestinal office at the VA talking to 3 different doctors all at once. We're all sitting there, me, Nancy, and 3 GI doctors. And the topic of the Mayo Clinic came up. And they said, well, we don't know what's wrong with you, Mr. Lamb. We understand that you're having issues. We understand that one thing I left out in this description that probably should have come up earlier is my disease manifests somewhat different than a lot of other people. When I go to the restroom, either or, one or two, doesn't matter, randomly, I can get massively nauseated and lethargic afterwards. Not all the time, not every time, not predictably. There's no direct cause and effect that I can say, I eat this, that happens. It's not food-based. I do this, that happens. It's not activity-based. I can't make it happen. I can't do something and know that afterwards. Oh, the one thing I do know, if I hold back, if I'm on like a road trip or on the bus or in a movie theater, conversation, let's say, and I put off going to the can, the longer I do that, the more likely I am to get sick. So that's a little bit different than the average description of CFSME. I shouldn't be fiddling with this, sorry. Yeah, that's how it manifests for me. So that's why I was in the GI clinic at the Mayo, or excuse me, at the VA. So they suggested maybe you should go to the Mayo because they're like one of the best facilities in the country. And I said, okay, let's look into that, Nancy. So we did, because we're pretty desperate. If you're local to the Seattle area, you know who Group Health is, you know who Virginia Mason is, you know who Swedish is. We'd gone through the doctors at all 3 of those facilities, and none of them could figure out what was wrong with me. Hence the desperation. Because I'm a fix-it guy. Why can't these people fix it? This was driving me crazy. I'm beginning to think it's in my head. And it's not. Other than the fact that my brain is inflamed and my nervous system is inflamed because I have myalgic encephalomyelitis. But I didn't know that at that point in time. So Nancy and I did the math and knuckled down and figured out what it's going to cost us to go to the Mayo Clinic. And I'm not going to go into details on how expensive that was. I will just say it was the price of a decent car. Yeah, I couldn't believe it. But we did it. We flew down there. Spent 3 weeks down in Scottsdale, Arizona, sick as a dog. The act of flying down there into a city that we'd never been to before, trying to navigate through that town as a couple, stressed out, bickering, arguing, getting lost, the whole 9 yards. It was like I Love Lucy all over the place, just madness. But we got down there. The rental car broke in the rental car garage. Engine warning light, poof! I think I got 10 feet before the thing went off on me. Anyway, it was kind of that sort of a trip. The good news is, through that process, they diagnosed me with myalgic encephalomyelitis and chronic fatigue syndrome. You know, that's sort of this mad little furball. And central sensitization, which means that I'm hyper reactive to things going wrong in my body. And I think a lot of us with ME are hyper reactive to things going wrong in our body. Like right now, my back, my lumbar is saying bad words to me. Let me get this seat rolled to a better spot. So after 3 weeks of being exhausted and worn out and poked and prodded and violated in ways I didn't think were possible, yeah, we flew home with that diagnosis. The dragon that had been tormenting me finally had a legitimate diagnosed name. Was it worth the price of a small car? I think so. I think so. I don't regret spending that money. Because not knowing was so much worse. Because that was getting in my head and causing me to question my own sensibilities, because if the doctors don't know what it is, I must be going insane. So I kind of put that to rest. Not that I'm not already crazy, but that's a different story. So I know what ME is. I, like a lot of us, am a diehard internet denizen, and I know how to Google like crazy. And I feel much better about where I am with the disease, even though in talking to other people with this disease, I've never run into anyone who has it manifest exactly like I do, but I've never run into anyone else who goes through exactly what I go through. I do know that I operate on an average day with about, on a good day, maybe 30 or 40% of what a otherwise normally fit human would go with. You know, the classic spoon story, right? We all know what the spoon story is. I'll fill you in if you don't. So, an otherwise normally fit person, let's say, wakes up in the morning with 25 spoons of energy. And at the end of the day, after doing their normal activities, including exercise, let's say, they will go to bed with at least 5 or 10 spoons still in the bank. And wake up the next morning, repeat. All well and good. I wake up in the morning and I might have 5 spoons, maybe 6, on a really good day, 7. And the real bummer is, I don't have like a meter that I can look down at, or like something on my watch that sort of tells me how much energy I have left. No, I don't have that. Not even slightly. And that's the real ultimate conundrum of having ME is none of us know where that cliff will be on a given day. And everybody with this disease is somewhat different from each other in that there are those of us who are bedridden. I'm not. And I'm thrilled that I'm not bedridden. I do have days where I am, though, no doubt about it. I kind of wish I was in bed now, but I'm kind of forcing myself to not be there, which I think is healthy for me, because I get stuck in a rut there, and I don't like that rut. So here it is, 2016. I was diagnosed in 2014. I've been sick since 2006. So, yeah, I've been sick for 10 years. I haven't worked since 2011. We started my Social Security disability insurance application 2 years ago, 3 years ago. Well, 2 years ago, because it was after I went to the mail. It's important to know that if you're going to apply for SSDI, Social Security Disability Insurance, you need a diagnosis before you can even start that. Minus a diagnosis, you're wasting your time. They won't even look at you. So that was critical. Having a diagnosis is the first step. The next step is, a truckload of patients. This process of SSDI takes too damn long. It's unfair to people. People get sick or injured or wounded by no cause of their own, by no fault of their own, unable to work. So they apply for SSDI, and it takes years to complete that process. What is a person supposed to do if they don't have resources saved up in order to survive, to live, to put food on the table, and and a dry roof over your head, and a pillow under your head when you go to bed at night? I find this baffling. That is a soapbox that I can climb on and just scream that it pisses me off so much. Not just for my own case. I look around. I still have a roof over my head after all this. I'm not suffering. I'm suffering because I'm sick, but I'm not suffering because I'm on the street. But that scares me that other people are, and that's so painful. So today I'm not working. We're waiting for our in-court appeal date to be set. Don't have that yet. I have an attorney. And it's just this crazy, mad waiting game. I watched a really interesting video this morning on YouTube from Solve CFS, the channel. I'll put a link down below for you in the notes, and it's a presentation by Jared Younger. I've got it up on the screen over here. He's a PhD over at University of Alabama in Birmingham, and he's got some real interesting things to say about how he thinks ME manifests. So get yourself a cup of coffee and watch this about hour-long video. It's really good. It doesn't talk over our heads, which is quite common when doctors talk about this stuff and scientists. This is very easy to follow, and it's inspiring. The sad part is, even if he were to come up with something tomorrow, the whole process of making something like this real that you and I could grab and make tangible is probably 10 years away, just because that's how long things take. So that's frustrating, but at least they're making progress, and I'm excited about that. So I'm gonna wrap up at this point. This is 21 minutes and going. I think that's long enough. I'm tired. I'm gonna lay down. God bless everybody, and everyone have a great day. Thanks. Bye.